At my daughter's wedding, the MC announced the Hollister family, but never said my name. I stood tall, walked to the mic, and said clearly, "I'm Dorothea Grant, the bride's mother." The room froze, and every secret they'd buried began to surface. This story's just getting started. The sun was easing down behind the cypress trees when I found the envelope on my porch. The air carried that soft Louisiana heaviness, half humidity, half memory. I thought it might be another church flyer until I noticed the ivory paper, thick as a wedding Bible, with my name written in tidy calligraphy. Dorothea Grant Catering Coordination, not mother of the bride, just that. I rubbed my thumb over the wax seal, the faint smell of roses mixing with porch dust and fried okra from a neighbor's kitchen. My joints ached as I peeled it open, and for a moment, I hoped it was just a mistake. But the insert said, "Staff arrival, 6:15 a.m." I stared at the words, then at Elijah's photo on the hall table. My late husband always told me, "If something feels wrong, read it twice," I whispered back. "Once was plenty." I called my daughter right then. Lonnie answered with that brisk tone she uses when she's juggling work. "Mom, I'm in the middle of the seating plan. Make it quick." I kept my voice even. "Sweetheart, my invitation says catering coordination. That's not how mothers get invited." She sighed. "It's just how the vendor filed it. Don't take it personal." "You know words matter at weddings," I said. "People stand where their titles tell them to stand." She lowered her tone, softer but slippery. "We're keeping things organized. Mom, you'll still be there, okay? Just in the flow. Titles aren't decorations. Lonnie, they define who belongs." "I have to run, Mom." The line went silent. I looked at Elijah's photo again, thinking how calm he'd look before saying something that changed the whole room. Outside, Mr. Curtis from next door was watering his azaleas. "Got another fancy invite, Miss D?" he called. "Fancy name, wrong job," I said. He laughed, not catching the sting. 2 church ladies strolled by, asking if I'd picked my dress yet. "Navy blue." I told them. Simple and pressed. Can't go wrong with clean lines. They nodded, the way women do when they know there's more to the story but mind their manners. I walked back inside, tucking the invitation into my recipe binder, the one labeled Weddings and Funerals. Then I texted Tavis from down the street, who worked temp gigs at events. "Ever seen family listed as staff?" His reply came quick. "Ma'am, only when someone's cutting corners or cutting someone out." Later that evening, I checked Lonnie's wedding website. My name was gone. The family grid now read The Hollisters, neat as a catalog page. Where my photo once sat, there was a blank gray square labeled Vendor Support. I scrolled through the comments. Beautiful family. Perfect symmetry. I stared at those words until they blurred. I hit Contact Planner, but it led to an automated reply. All family portrait decisions finalized. I sent Lanny a screenshot. Her answer came 20 minutes later. "Mom, please don't spiral. Trust the process," I whispered. "Whose process, baby?" I dug through my closet until I found a small shoebox marked Lanny, Elementary. Inside was a card she made when she was 9, crooked handwriting, backward R's, glitter everywhere. "Mom, you're my favorite person I'll ever invite." I smiled despite myself. That little girl hadn't cared about titles, just love and glue sticks. I slipped the card into my purse. A quiet woman with her paperwork straight. That was my armor now. Before bed, I sat with my checkbook open, reviewing my travel plans. I'd saved enough to cover the flight and hotel, plus a backup fund. Every figure had a purpose. Every line had my name. I packed Elijah's keychain, a navy dress, low heels, and a notepad. I told my sister I was going alone. "Sometimes silence speaks louder," I said. I decided I wouldn't correct anyone at that wedding, not out loud. But I'd correct the record later, where ink and signatures mattered more than microphones. Near midnight. I refreshed the wedding site again. A new update appeared. Back of house briefing. My heart sank. I printed the page, slid it under Elijah's photo, and looked into his steady eyes behind the glass. "You told me once," I murmured. "Always keep the records." My phone buzzed. A calendar alert. Staff arrival window, 6:15 a.m. I leaned back in my chair, the kitchen clock ticking between us. If they want me to show up like staff, I said softly, I'll clock in like one. And this time, I'll see everything they don't want me to see. The morning light fell across Baton Rouge in thin golden lines as I parked outside the little boutique on Government Street. The bell above the door chimed, and cool air brushed my face, carrying the faint smell of lavender and starch. I hung my navy dress bag over my arm and smiled at the young clerk behind the counter. "Morning, sweetheart," I said. "I'm here for a fitting." She took my printed invitation, squinted, then tilted her head. "You're listed as catering coordination?" Her voice rose at the end like a question she didn't want answered. I nodded, calm. "That's what the card says." "Yes." She led me toward a rack marked Event Support Navy, black only. I scanned the dresses, all plain. Stiff fabrics meant for people meant to blend in. I was hoping for a mother of the bride silhouette. I told her. She smiled politely. "Per our planner's code, you're staff adjacent." I looked her in the eye. "Darlin'. Titles decide doors, front or back." She shrugged. "House rules." I touched a navy sheath dress. Solid, simple, respectable. "Then I'll take this one," I said. Buying it felt like drawing a line. In the dressing room mirror, I straightened my shoulders and studied my reflection. The fabric draped just right. The woman staring back at me looked tired but not small. A young bride-to-be whispered outside, "She looks like staff." And I saw the sales lead hush her quickly. I smiled to myself. The older you get, the less you explain your presence. I whispered under my breath, "Still here, still steady." The mirror caught the fine silver at my temples and the steadiness in my hands. I walked a few steps, testing the hem and heel height. Comfort was dignity, too. I didn't need sequins to shine. I just needed my name said right. At the counter, I added a magnolia brooch to my purchase. Quiet rebellion shaped like a flower. Afterward, I stopped at a coffee shop that smelled of roasted beans and old books. I spread my folders, invite, travel, labels across the small table, and opened my laptop. I dialed the planner's office. A crisp voice greeted me with automated options. Press 3 for photography, press 5 for family access. I pressed 5. It went to voicemail. I kept it short. "This is Dorothea Grant, mother of the bride. My title was misprinted. Please correct it." I typed a follow-up email, attaching my ID, time-stamped, polite, but firm. "Let's keep it simple." I wrote. I added a note in my ledger. "If they call me staff, observe staff lanes." Just then, Tavis texted, "If they coded you as staff, ma'am, you'll get a full map. Use it." I smiled. Young people always forget older women can be the best observers in any room. The next day, the phone rang while I was paying for alterations. "Miss Grant," a soft voice said. "This is Dana from photography. I wanted to confirm your position in the family portraits." "With my daughter," I said, cheerful but clear. There was a pause, the kind where kindness and discomfort meet. "I'm seeing Hollister family only for the first row portraits." I let the silence stretch. "Then please add me," I said. "Mother of the bride. I can send proof if that helps." I heard her typing. "Of course, I'll email the planner." A moment later, her message came through, including the spreadsheet. At the bottom, it read, "Vendor support excluded from family frames." I circled it in red. That evening, the planner's reply arrived. "All portrait decisions finalized. Thank you for supporting the event." It was a sentence without ownership, built to deflect blame. I forwarded it to Lanny. My message, "Baby, this looks mistaken. Please fix the list." Hours passed before her answer came. "Mom, please don't complicate the flow. Trust me." I folded my arms and said softly, "Trust is earned in daylight." Then I filed every email, every screenshot, neatly into the labels folder. I added a sticky note. "History is written by those who show up in the pictures." I paid for the alterations without a word. "We can shorten the hem an inch," the tailor said. "Leave it," I replied. "I might need that extra inch where I'm going, at home." I packed again, compression stockings, water bottle, protein bar, documents in triplicate. My body had learned to travel prepared, my mind even more so. I wrote a single sentence in my planner: I will not pout, I will prepare. By dusk, my phone pinged with a new alert from the wedding app. Vendor briefing, update, back-of-house entrance diagram revised. I opened it. A map showed a narrow lane leading straight to a service corridor behind the ballroom. I printed it, circled the entrance, and labeled it Observation Point. The photographer texted again. I'll try to adjust the list in the morning, Miss Grant. I replied. Thank you, sweetheart. Confusion clears under good light. I pinned the magnolia brooch to my dress, its silver petals gleaming faintly in the lamplight. The boutique called just then to confirm my event support pickup time. I let the phone ring out. Facing the mirror, I said quietly. They can call me Staff if they like, but I'll see everything Staff sees. The morning drizzle followed me from the Portland airport to the gates of Hollister Estate. Gravel cracked under my rental tires, and mist hovered above the hydrangeas. A young guard leaned into the window, scanned the dashboard pass, and said with mechanical politeness, Staff to the left, ma'am. I looked at his face, searching for recognition. I'm Dorothea Grant, I said. He nodded, unbothered. Yes, ma'am. Staff staging is left. The words didn't sting like before. They just hardened into fact. I turned the wheel left, tires grinding over wet stones, noting the slope, the puddles, the uneven pavement, things an older woman keeps in mind. I parked near the service trucks and floral crates, smoothed my dress, and pinned the magnolia brooch over my heart. Then I took a picture of the service entrance only sign. The folder in my purse labeled labels was getting heavier. Inside, the air smelled of coffee urns and metal racks. Crew members hurried past, rolling linens and tapping clipboards. Morning, I said to one woman with tired eyes. Her badge read, Carla Catering Lead. She smiled back. Morning, ma'am. Respect goes both ways. A coordinator at a folding table handed me a laminated tag without looking up. Vendor access. I accepted it with a calm, thank you, slipping it into my purse. Paper trails are quiet witnesses. I traced the hallway. Ballroom door, kitchen swing gate, side exit, each one a path. I repeated under my breath. Mother of the bride stands with the bride. Overhead, someone on a radio said, the Hollisters want symmetry. No surprises. I noted that phrase carefully. I texted Tavis a photo of the map. His reply came fast. You're in the right place to learn everything. A junior planner brushed past, whispering to a coworker. Vendor Navy, perfect. I heard the smirk in her tone, but I didn't gift her a reaction. My block heels echoed softly next to the catering crew's rubber clogs. The visual rhyme wasn't lost on me. Same lane, different story. 2 floral girls, barely 20, smiled at me. Love your brooch, one said. Reminds me of my grandma. I smiled. Mine too, sweetheart. A rack of pastel dresses rolled by, labels swinging, Hollister family portraits, ballroom foyer. I photographed the tag, discreet but steady. History is made in details, not speeches. I slipped into the ballroom during a sound check. The chandeliers hummed faintly, catching the damp light. A technician, headset on, asked, Vendor or family? Dorothea Grant, I said. I'll stand with the bride. He hesitated, radioed someone, and frowned when static answered back, Family =, Hollisters only. He looked embarrassed. Sorry, ma'am. I kept my tone warm. Nothing to be sorry for. Just give me the call sheet. He pointed to a clipboard. My name wasn't there. Just a neat line. Mother of bride, Ine. I took a photo, both sides. The sound of the camera shutter was soft, but my pulse wasn't. I replaced the clipboard exactly where it had been, and I wasn't here to disrupt. I was here to remember. In the courtyard, Dean and Clarice Hollister were adjusting place cards under a tent. Dean's voice carried, Let's keep vendor flow separate. No mingling near the family foyer. Clarice's eyes landed on my badge, then on my shoes. Oh, she said, smiling thinly. We just want things orderly. I'll be where a mother stands, I said. She tilted her head. Let's not complicate the aesthetic. Aesthetic isn't lineage, I replied evenly. A young planner stepped between us, nervous smile in place. Let's keep traffic clear. Miss Grant. I let them steer me back toward the hallway. Winning the room isn't always the goal. Owning the record is backstage. A seamstress crouched beside a bridesmaid's gown. She looked up and said, "Vendor Navy suits you." I met her eyes. Mother Navy travels farther. She blinked, unsure what I meant, then went back to her pins. I noticed a sheet taped to the wall labeled Colorway Compliance. Under Family Palette were blush and ivory. Under Vendor, my Navy. I photographed it without comment. When people can't fight facts, they hide behind color charts. Minutes later, the DJ began rehearsing introductions. "Presenting the Hollister family," he called out, smiling toward the empty aisle. Then he paused. That's all it says?" A coordinator walked to me, gentle palm out, guiding me behind the curtain. I didn't resist. I just stood still, folder in hand, camera phone cooling in my purse. The applause rose from the ballroom, loud and proud, my heartbeat steady. One count behind it. I thought, keep clapping. I've got proof louder than your music. The drizzle had turned into a fine mist by the time I entered the foyer. Warm light from chandeliers spilled over a gilded easel that displayed the rehearsal dinner seating chart. The calligraphy read, "Family vertical, bar friends, vertical bar partners." I leaned closer, scanning the family column. Every name began with Hollister. My eyes drifted down to a smaller section labeled Support Vendors. That's where I saw it. Dorothea G. Table R. A small R tucked near the restroom icon and a service door. I took a photo, then zoomed in until the timestamp glowed clear. They'd placed me where traffic and toilets met. To anyone else, it was an oversight. To me, it was a declaration written in ink. I whispered, "If they won't say it to your face, they'll print it where you can't argue." I went to see the table myself. The floor wobbled beneath my sensible heels. Table R leaned slightly, its centerpiece missing a candle, its cloth fraying at the corner. A young waiter rushed over. "Sorry, ma'am, we bump into this one a lot during service." I smiled gently. "Not your fault, baby." The air smelled of bleach and perfume from the restroom line. From this spot, the dais was half hidden by a pillar, and the sound carried with a tinny echo. I set my magnolia brooch on the charger and snapped a photo from my seat. Then, without fuss, I folded a cocktail napkin and wedged it under the leg until the table steadied. My grandmother used to say, "Fix what you can reach. Shall we document what you can't." Clarice Hollister floated by in her silver shawl, two women at her side. Her eyes landed on my escort card, then slid away as though she looked at a stain. A planner trailed behind her, smile fixed. "We're keeping family groupings clean for photos tonight," she said, voice coated in sugar. I answered evenly, "Then fix the list, and I'll stand where a mother stands." The planner's smile didn't move. "We can revisit that after announcements," which meant never. I walked past her toward the back, noticing which people carried clipboards and which actually carried power. My phone buzzed. "Tavis, restroom table confirmed?" I texted back. "Yes." "Documented and dated." His reply came seconds later. "Good. They're overplaying their hand." Inside the ballroom, the MC was testing his microphone, rehearsing the introductions. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Hollister family." I watched as he highlighted names on a printed list. When he paused, I stepped forward. "I'm Dorothea Grant, mother of the bride. Please confirm my placement during intros." His brow furrowed. He glanced toward a coordinator who gave the smallest shake of her head. "I just read what they give me, ma'am." "Then ask for what's missing," I said calmly. He hesitated, radioed someone, and got back a faint crackle. "Family equals Hollisters only. Vendor support remains seated." I kept my voice measured. "Then may I have a copy of your script?" He printed it, handed it over, and I photographed the header and footer before thanking him. Polite, procedural, permanent. When the rehearsal began, applause filled the air as he called, "Please applaud the Hollister family." The crowd clapped, the spotlight gleamed. My daughter smiled up there, radiant and unreachable. My name was nowhere. I stood quietly near the back wall, posture straight, eyes forward. A cousin whispered, "Maybe the mom passed." I turned just enough to say, "I'm very much alive." The lead photographer's flash caught that moment, and I saw her nod slightly, as if she knew. I didn't return to table R. I sat on a bench near the exit, choosing sight over seating. Control over courtesy, later. I emailed myself the photo of the script. Subject line, omission, rehearsal. I copied the planner, writing, "Please correct introductions per legal relation, Dorothea Grant, mother of the bride." I attached my ID and closed the laptop. No emotion, just evidence. I repinned the magnolia brooch to my dress and drew a slow breath. Counting to 8. "We don't shout to be heard," I murmured. "We document so we can't be ignored." As guests lined up for the restroom beside my assigned table, a young server brushed by and whispered, "Miss Grant, they're updating the door plan for tomorrow. It says family only now." I asked softly, "Does it keep mothers out?" She looked down. "It keeps questions out." I nodded. "That never works for long." I tucked a napkin note into my folder labeled Labels and smoothed my hem. A final alert buzzed on my phone. Tomorrow's entrances locked at 6:00 a.m. Staff badges required. I looked at my badge, then toward the ballroom doors glowing under the lights. I smiled faintly and whispered, "Good. I already know the keys." Mist hung low over the Hollister estate when I arrived just after 5:30. The air smelled of wet stone and early coffee. The service dock buzzed quietly, people moving carts, rolling linen bins, warming urns. Oh, I wore flats, compression socks, and my navy dress under a raincoat. My folder, labeled Labels, rested against my chest like armor. A logistics lead in a neon vest called names from a clipboard. "Dorothea Grant," I said clearly when he hesitated at mine. He pointed to a folding table stacked with lanyards under a sign that read, "Staff Badge Pickup." I double-knotted my shoes, tested the grip of the anti-slip mat, and made a mental note of the nearest chair. "Early buys you time to think," I whispered, "and thinking, at my age, is movement." I silenced my phone and set the camera to no flash. Documentation never sleeps. A volunteer reached into the stack and handed me a badge. Kitchen support. D. Grant. The letters looked sharp. Deliberate, not a typo, an erasure disguised as organization. I smiled, laid it on a linen runner, and took a photo. Both sides visible. "This one's incorrect," I told the lead. "Per planner," he said without looking up. "Family badges already issued." I clipped it next to my driver's license so the truth and the lie could hang together. "Noted," I said quietly. "The way grown women say I'll remember this." I added a sticky note to my folder. Badge =, forced emotion, Exhibit A. At 6 sharp, a voice crackled over the speaker. Back of house briefing in 5. I followed the stream of people down a narrow hall that smelled of polish and dough. The coordinator rattled through vendor timing, ice runs, florals, sound checks. I traced the route on my copy of the staff map, marking exits, cameras, and where cables met power outlets. One slide flashed family staging beside vendor staging. My lane, of course, was the latter. I counted the hallway length and steps, 48 from the dock to the ballroom wing. 2 planners whispered nearby, "Keep symmetry." No surprises. That phrase again, I jotted it down. "We live back here," joked a pastry chef, adjusting her apron. "Some of us were put back here," I replied. During break, I drifted down the corridor, feigning interest in a tray list taped to a wall. Through a cracked office door, I heard Dean Hollister's voice, low, clipped. Another man's tone answered, sharp and quick. Words floated out in pieces. Loss event, underwriter call, clean paper. I angled my phone chest high and snapped the brass nameplate beside the door. "Context matters," the men continued. Dean said, "No emails, only printed claims." The other replied, "Boat fire payout covered the ring. BMW totaled right on time." Dean's voice tightened. "Keep Melissa's mother nowhere near the foyer." My name, spoken like a liability. I pressed my lips together, counting my pulse. A server rounded the corner. I lifted the tray list as if studying it. When the coast cleared, I slipped away. I texted Tavis, terms heard. Loss event, underwriter, LLC, printed only. He responded with one word, document at the copy station. I noticed a bin labeled vendor packets. One folder sat slightly askew, stamped insurance, delivery confirmations. I borrowed a stapler, laid the packet flat, and photographed the top sheet and the index. Headings read incident timing, asset photos, adjuster notes. I kept the bin label in frame. Proof of place, proof of chain. A young assistant peeked in. "Need help, ma'am?" I smiled. "Just confirming pastry placements." She nodded and left. I flipped a single page just far enough to glimpse columns of numbers, valuation changes before each loss event. My camera clicked once, twice. Another section listed vendor honoraria, names I recognized, the MC, the planner, a PR consultant labeled family liaison. The totals looked inflated. My fingertip pointed at the sum for scale. I emailed the photos to my backup account and cloud storage. Subject, for later clarity. Through the wall. I heard mic checks from the ballroom. Presenting the Hollister family. Always that phrase, polished and exclusionary. I touched the wrong badge at my chest, then the correct name on my ID. One false, one real, both visible. I adjusted the magnolia brooch higher, centered on my collarbone. My knees ached, but resolve makes its own kind of strength. I turned toward the ballroom wings, the path reserved for vendor access. The coordinator spotted me. "Ma'am, vendors hold." I lifted my folder instead. "Good thing I'm not a vendor," I said, smiling faintly. "I'm the record." The ballroom shimmered under noon light. A string quartet tuned up while ushers opened the double doors for guests crossing the marble. I stood near the main wing, not the service lane I'd been pointed toward that morning. The air smelled of lilies and polish, the kind that makes shoes slick and pride slippery. My palms were dry, my breath steady. I saw the AV rack, the DJ booth, the mic case I'd mapped the day before. We're not crashing a party, I told myself. We're correcting a record. I checked my phone, camera ready, silent, auto-upload to cloud active. A young coordinator lifted her hand to stop me. Smile polite. "Staff line's that way." I met her eyes. "Mother of the bride," I said, and walked forward. The MC flipped his pages. Yellow highlighter catching the overhead light. Hollister family. It read. "No Dorothea Grant." I stepped closer. "Confirm maternal acknowledgement," I said evenly. He blinked, radioed someone. Static crackled, then a clipped response. "Family only. Vendors remain seated." The word vendors landed heavy, like a slap disguised as procedure. I set my badge. "Kitchen support. D. Grant." Beside my state ID on the DJ table. "Run a live check," I said. He hesitated. "Tap the mic." A sharp chirp echoed. "Good," I said softly. "Then it works." Celeste appeared. My daughter, wrapped in silk and nerves. Clarice Hollister hovered behind her. A shadow in pearls. "The staff entrance is in the back," Celeste whispered without meeting my eyes. I kept mine steady. "Celeste," I said, voice clear, "I am not staff. I am your mother." Her lips parted, but no sound came. Heads turned, conversations stilled. Clarice murmured, "Escort her behind the pillar." I took one step past the pillar instead, into the open space where the dais glowed. If they wanted their perfect picture, I intended to stand in it. Truth included. The MC began, voice bright, "Presenting the Hollister family." I touched the microphone gently. "I'm Dorothea Grant," I said. "Mother of the bride." A ripple of murmurs spread. My tone stayed level. Each word clipped like court testimony. My name was omitted from the program. My badge mislabeled, my table placed by the restroom. Each correction requested in writing, documented and time-stamped. I laid the badge and ID beside my magnolia brooch, framed them with my phone camera. "This is not a disruption," I said. "This is a record. Without accusation." I unfolded the pattern. Loss events, LLC transfers. Printed-only claims. I quoted what I'd overheard that morning. No editorializing, just recitation. "When names don't match facts," I said, "facts win." The auto backup icon blinked on my phone. I texted Tavis one word. "Go." His reply came as a checkmark. My shoulders eased, not with victory, but with confirmation. The MC's hand trembled over his cue card. I met his eyes. Please add, I said, mother of the bride, Dorothea Grant. A guest near the aisle whispered, Is this necessary? I turned slightly toward her. It's necessary when a mother is erased. Security moved, hesitant, unsure of protocol. I raised my palms, empty, calm. No trouble here, I said. Just truth. The MC swallowed, then spoke into the mic, voice thin. Mother of the bride, Dorothea Grant. The room clapped, not from affection, but to hide its discomfort from the cameras. Celeste's face stiffened. She leaned to whisper to the MC, but he looked down, unwilling to meet her eyes. A side door clicked open. 2 managers motioned subtly toward the service corridor. The old trick. Remove the evidence. I gathered my ID and brooch, left the false badge on the podium where the world could see it. As I stepped down, I told myself, if they name you wrong, make them spell it twice. Halfway to the exit, the door began to close behind me when a voice called, Miss Grant. It was the photographer, the same woman who'd captured my silhouette the night before. She lifted her camera. You'll want the shot. Flash burst across the ballroom, freezing everything, the applause, the glances, the truth. The flash from the photographer's camera froze everything. My hands still at my sides, the wrong badge beside my ID, the magnolia brooch catching light like proof. The image lived before anyone moved. Guests whispered, a wave of realization rippling through the room. One woman gasped, That's her mother. Phones lifted. Clarice rushed forward, her pearls jangling. You don't have a release. The photographer didn't flinch. Public event. Contracted deliverables. And she's the mother of the bride. I stepped off the riser, calm and deliberate, and thanked a nearby usher for holding the door. My breath stayed steady, chin lowered to project my voice softly when I spoke. We breathe. We stand. We stay factual, I murmured to myself. The MC tried to restart, but eyes stayed on me. For the first time all day, I was seen, not as a disruption, but as a person, near the foyer. A decorative seating chart gleamed beneath glass. Its legend showed 3 color blocks: Hollister family, corporate friends, vendors support, my name card, Dorothea G. Sat low, taped in the Navy section labeled vendors. I peeled it carefully, photographed it with timestamp and scale, and slipped it into my folder. 2 aunts from Dean's side looked over, faces flushed. That can't be right, one whispered. It's exact enough to be intentional, I said evenly. A venue attendant rushed over with new dots. Trying to cover the evidence, I stepped aside. I already had the record. A retired teacher touched my arm. I saw your name on the chart, Miss Grant. I smiled faintly. Witness noted. My shame had turned to purpose. Quietly, I whispered to my phone. When they color code you out of family, keep the swatch. At the podium, I found a stapled draft. Acknowledgements, Hollister lineage, mentors, donors. My name was missing. I angled my phone for a clear photo. May I read the line where I appear? I asked the MC. He stammered. We can add you later, I answered gently. Women who labor early are often added later. Today is not later. One bridesmaid overheard, her expression folding inward. Celeste said it was complicated, she murmured. Complications don't survive daylight, I said. Clarice pulled Celeste aside, whispering fast. I uploaded the photo to my folder labeled evidence_day_of. Facts travel faster than favors, I told my camera quietly. The call for portraits came next. The printed list read, bride plus Hollister family, bride plus parents, Hollister, bride plus VIP donors. I walked toward the alcove. The photographer stopped mid-frame. Do you want your mother in your album? She asked Celeste directly. The silence that followed could cut marble. Clarice's voice snapped. Proceed as planned, the photographer replied. My contract is with accuracy and posterity. I stepped closer, calm but unyielding. Celeste, pick the future you can live with. Albums outlive gossip. The crowd murmured, some urging inclusion, some avoiding eye contact. Maybe later, Celeste said. Later builds regrets. I told her softly. Now builds records. Celeste's hands trembled. Her gaze fell to my brooch, the one she'd pinned on me at 16. I'm trying to keep the peace. she whispered, glancing toward Dean and Clarice's table of donors. Peace that erases your mother, I replied, is just silence wearing pearls. A friend of hers spoke up. Cece, your mom paid for freshman year when the Hollisters didn't even know you, Clarice hissed. Not now. The room shifted. The MC froze mid-step, torn between duty and conscience. Celeste blinked rapidly, the first real crack in her composure. The venue manager approached next, binder in hand. Miss Grant, we have a policy. Page number, I asked? He faltered. I photographed the binder's header and closed it gently. Show me the section that downgrades kin to catering, I said, voice steady. The PR consultant smiled nervously. Miss, Grant is understandably emotional. I smiled back. Miss, Grant is evidentiary. Security hovered. I stayed neutral, palms open. A deacon couple drifted near, a silent human shield. Then a catering steward said flatly, We don't remove mothers, we remove problems. The manager backed away, muttering about legal review. I texted Tavis, visibility achieved, prepare second packet. Minutes later, phones began buzzing. Someone had already posted the photo, captioned, When the mother of the bride refuses to vanish. I didn't speak loudly. I chose words that carried, I'm not here to ruin a wedding, I said to a nearby group. I'm here to stop a tradition. What tradition? An aunt asked. The kind where women who do the early work disappear from the picture. The line caught fire. Repeatable. Undeniable. Clarice tried damage control. Whispering orders. Give Miss Grant a small acknowledgement, she told the MC. The crowd had already made up its mind. A donor whispered. This looks bad. Dean's jaw clenched. He crossed to me, voice too smooth. Let's discuss this privately. Transparency prefers daylight, I said, shifting us toward the crowd. His voice lowered. You're courting legal exposure. Then you know what a subpoena is, I replied. The photographer captured his frozen smile mid-threat. Clarice barked. Run portraits without her. Not without the bride's explicit no, the photographer said. Celeste inhaled sharply. Take one with my mother, she said at last. The crowd exhaled as if released. I stepped in, slowly, gracefully. No dramatics, just steadiness. The shutter clicked once. The photographer confirmed. Logged, bride and mother of the bride. I nodded in thanks. You can fix more tomorrow than you can fake today, I told Celeste quietly. Clarice stormed off. Dean stared, realizing I'd never raised my voice, only raised the evidence. My phone buzzed. A text from Tavis. Packet acknowledged, follow-up incoming. Seconds later, a blocked number rang. Miss Grant, a measured voice said, this is about the loss events. Are you somewhere you can talk? I looked at the ballroom doors and stepped toward the terrace. Tarted, uneasy at first, then steady. I nodded toward the staff. Thank you for your work today. Before leaving the mic, I said one line for the cameras. Women who build the early years deserve to be visible in the later photos. Then I stepped down. No dramatics, just correction in the office. I signed a revocation letter transferring all incidentals to Dean and Clarice's account. Then I activated a pre-arranged trust instruction. The wedding fund reverted to my living trust unless Celeste signed a respect clause. Simple acknowledgement, clear boundaries. If unsigned within 72 hours, the amount would go to a community scholarship. I texted her. No threats, only choices. I printed receipts, archived them in my folder, and left copies with accounting. Revenge wasn't fire, it was rerouting the current. Later. I met Celeste by the photo alcove and handed her a carved jewelry box. A wedding gift, I said, opening it slightly so she could glimpse a sealed letter inside. It's a deed to a small home, held in escrow, conditional on respect. Houses hold families, not the other way around. Clarice reached forward. I closed the lid. When you're ready, I told Celeste, it's yours. The photographer captured the scene. Quiet, not grand. Everyone finally understood. I wasn't angry. I was exact. Clarice tried to spin it. There's been a misunderstanding. There's been documentation, I replied. Dean leaned close. You'll regret this. Subpoena beats social, I said, without blinking. Celeste's voice trembled into the mic. Thank you, Mom. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a beginning. I joined her for one formal photograph. Simple. Side by side. Afterward, I excused myself from the head table. The union steward caught my arm on the way out. Thank you for naming us, ma'am. We see each other, I said, smiling. By dusk, the air had cooled. My phone buzzed. An email confirmation. Intake number assigned. Case initiated. Another buzz. Celeste again. Can we talk tomorrow? Just us, I replied. Yes. My porch. 9 a.m. Bring your own voice. I placed the jewelry box in the glove compartment, started the car, and hummed the hymn my mother used to hum when she chose dignity over noise. The road home shimmered under streetlights. I wasn't triumphant. I was complete. When I parked, another car pulled in behind me. Headlights cut through the dark. The photographer stepped out. Envelope in hand. Miss Grant, she said softly. There's one more photo you should see. Before tomorrow. The photographer handed me the envelope. Her eyes steady. Inside. One photograph shimmered under the porch light, Celeste standing alone, looking straight at the camera, something clenched in her hand. She asked me to give this to you, the photographer said. My breath caught. What could my daughter be holding now?